So friends, Donald Trump and his lawyers just found themselves on the receiving end of what I think can fairly be characterized as a judicial smackdown from a federal judge in New York. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, desperate to avoid his upcoming sentencing in New York State Court on his 34 felony convictions, Donald Trump and his lawyers just filed a motion again seeking to have his case transferred from New York State Court to federal court. And the presiding federal court judge, Judge Hellerstein, just denied the request again, because you may remember about a year ago, before Donald Trump went to trial in New York State Court, was convicted by a jury of his peers, and was scheduled for sentencing. Before all of that, Donald Trump tried to have his case removed, transferred from New York State Court to federal court, claiming that everything he did constituted official presidential acts. And after a hearing, the presiding federal court judge, Judge Hellerstein, said, no, defendant Trump, having your attorney and fixer pay hush money to a porn star that you had an encounter with to shut her up, and then falsifying business records criminally to cover up the true nature of those hush money payments, all to gain unfair advantage in a presidential election, none of it constitutes official presidential conduct. Therefore, your request to have your case transferred from state court to federal court is denied. That was Judge Hellerstein's ruling a year ago, and Judge Hellerstein just rejected Donald Trump's request again. And we're going to look at the very short order that was issued by Judge Hellerstein in a minute, and you'll see what leads me to say this really was a judicial smackdown. I don't often use language like that to describe judges' rulings or orders. But before we get to Judge Hellerstein's order, let's have a look at the new reporting. This from Axios. Trump loses bid to move hush money case to federal court. And that article begins, former President Trump on Tuesday lost his bid to move his hush money case from New York state courts to federal jurisdiction. Why it matters? Trump is due to be sentenced later this month in the case, in which he was found guilty on all 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to conceal payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. The ruling means the case will remain with State Judge Juan Merchan. Okay, friends, let's turn to Judge Hellerstein's order. First of all, Donald Trump and his lawyers complain and moan and bellyache about Judge Merchan, the New York State Court judge that presided over Donald Trump's criminal trial. They say, oh, Judge Hellerstein, Judge Merchan was so unfair to us. He was so conflicted. He was so this, he was so that, blah, blah, blah. And because it was all unfair, we think you should transfer the case from state court to federal court and just dismiss it. Well, Judge Hellerstein had a little something to say about that argument, which really sounded more like a rambling 2 a.m. Donald Trump social media post than a legitimate legal argument, anything a self-respecting lawyer would put in writing. Here's what Judge Hellerstein said. This court, meaning federal district court, does not have jurisdiction to hear Mr. Trump's arguments concerning the propriety of the New York trial. District courts, federal courts, may not reverse or modify state judgments. Accordingly, This argument by Mr. Trump doesn't even deserve my attention. Oof, that's got a sting. Okay, what about Donald Trump's second argument to Judge Hellerstein? You know, trying to convince Judge Hellerstein to transfer his case from New York State Court to federal court. Well, Donald Trump and his lawyers say, but Judge, the Supreme Court just said I can't be prosecuted for official presidential acts. Friends, we already know where Judge Hellerstein is going to land on that one, don't we? Let's have a look at his opinion. I held in my order and opinion of July 19, 2023, more than a year ago now, that hush money paid to an adult film star is not related to a president's official acts. It does not reflect in any way the color of the president's official duties. My holding followed an evidentiary hearing where the people, the prosecutors, showed conclusively that Mr. Trump reimbursed Michael Cohen for advancing the hush money payments, including 2 checks signed in the White House by Mr. Trump. I held that Mr. Trump had not satisfied the burden of proof required to show the basis of removal, in other words, transfer from state court to federal court. My holding of a hush money reimbursement remains true, regardless of who has the burden, whether the prosecutors or Mr. Trump. Nothing in the Supreme Court's opinion affects my previous conclusion that the hush money payments were private, unofficial acts outside the bounds of executive authority. I'll say it again. Judicial smackdown. How did Judge Hellerstein wrap up his order? Let's go to the conclusion. It clearly appears on the face of the notice filed by defendant Trump and exhibits attached thereto that removal, transfer of the case, should not be permitted. Good cause has not been shown, and leave to remove the case is not granted. The clerk shall terminate the case. So ordered. Alvin K. Hellerstein, United States District Judge. So friends, that is one more hurdle overcome, one more obstacle cleared away on the road to Donald Trump's first criminal sentencing. But, you know, we've learned we're not celebrating yet, because there's no celebrating accountability until Donald Trump is wearing an orange jumpsuit, being held accountable for the many crimes he committed against the people of New York, against the American people, and against our democracy. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.